Get started. My presentation today, we named it as Navigating Absenteeism. I'm going to share with you guys just different strategies that we have used in our district, like what Ms. Wilson has expressed. We've only done it 1 year with RaaWee, so we are, if Ms. Wilson is a baby, we are literally like, a 3-month old in this experience with RaaWee. So what I would like to do is kind of just share our goals for the presentation, what I would want us to, hopefully I can impart with you guys that are here today on what you guys are going to get out of this presentation. So the first part is I will share some of the processes that we have, the concept on the processes that we have done and we've taken, and to create the blocks of where we are now with our efforts in trying to combat absenteeism. So with that will be, how we came about with our plan. And then the second thing would be is that I'm going to hopefully impart with you guys is the different intentional, that's the word I'm going to use, intentional strategies that we use to focus more on the monitoring and the support that we give our campuses. So that way they can better maximize their efforts that we have in conjunction with RaaWee. Everything that we're doing, you will notice that RaaWee will be a big component of. So then this last part of this, and hopefully is, making sure that you guys get the help you guys need if you're in Texas and Harris County, the Triad component that we have here. And then obviously, I also want to share just from our campuses, what strategies they have used from the most basic, like what Ms. Woods have expressed about being positive reinforcement to the data collection piece and how they go about doing it, and on our end how we are monitoring our campuses so that way we can best support them. Okay, so I don't want to really talk about myself that much. But again, I'm a director of school administration at Aldine, and just a quick brief, and you can see here. We have a total of 57,640 students in our district. It's a big district. We have a total of 83 campuses. And without expressing so much is that we have about a 77-20 split of our demographics, Hispanic being the majority. And then we have about 19.8% of our demographics is African-American. And we have about 91% low socioeconomic disadvantaged kids. So quick numbers. So I always want to start with how we got here and maybe share some good news for those who are struggling, that are trying to stay the course. And my message is stay the course. The reason because since we've implemented RaaWee and with the processes that we have taken, we have increased our ADA by 1.08%. For 57,000 number of students at district. This number is based on where we're at last year to this point, and we were at this year up to this point. So of that, only six campuses we did not see any growth on, and 77 had an increase in their ADA, and 52% of 52 campuses out of the 83, we saw a 1% growth. At least a 1% growth on their ADA. So, what I'm about to share with you, hopefully you take it because there are some good things in here, but it's up for you to decide, right? But just a quick thing, and this will not be something that we would have had an ability to do if not for RaaWee. And I got to give RaaWee a shout out too. I know they're sponsoring this too. So just a quick number. If we had students in the whole district, okay, that warning letters were proposed but warning letters were provided, the average attendance ADA of that cohort was 83%. Warning letters of the students who were not provided but were proposed, that should have gotten one. Basically, they should have gotten one, but for whatever reason, they didn't get it. Their ADA is 70% average of that group. So that tells us right from the get-go that, hey, the warning letters is helping. The tone of the warning letters is is there. And then even to the more granular part of it is that when we had to give attendance contracts and we monitored those attendance contracts, those numbers went up to 77. And if attendance contracts were provided, but we did not monitor those, we just basically, here's an attendance contract for you. The ADA, we saw the students' attendance to have decreased. So just to put us on a perspective that what we're doing, if you stay the course, does matter, and the attention, the interventions that we take does make a difference, and we're all here for that, right? So when we started this, like you can tell, the big district like ours, you have to have a plan. You can't just come up with something and then, the proverbial, we're building the plane as we fly. To a certain extent, you have to make adjustments, but you have to have a strategic plan. And when you develop these initiatives that we're doing, and one of the first things that we had to do was to make sure that this was not done in silo, that it was just not a group of district folks that are going to come up with a plan. What we did was we actually gathered information and invited as many stakeholders as we can. And when we got those group, what we did was from campuses, attendance clerks, administrators, teachers, principals, what we want to make sure was that we gave them a guideline, right? Make sure the things to consider were, by the end of this, when we get out of this plan, we better have a clearly defined roles and responsibilities for anybody that is involved in this behemoth project, right? You get out there, and I think Ms. Woods also showed it, the cadence of the intervention. It has to be clear. You have to have a clear framework of what it is that you're working on. When absent hits this, here's what's going to happen. X, Y, and Z, all the way to the end as to what happens in the end, right? And just as more important is going to be is, now we have all these plans, right? How are we going to collect this data? Because remember, in order for this to happen effectively, you have to have proper data. You have to make decisions based on data. How do you make decisions based on data is, because you'll be able to have to monitor those. And so you have to have a good information coming in so that we can monitor them. And then the feedback cycle, how do you address the data once you have this information? And then the feedback cycle comes back again. You have to reevaluate, adjust, make changes. And we were finding that out as we go through. Because remember, again, I keep repeating back to, we are pretty much a huge, a big district. So when we started it, when we had the plan, when we sat everybody down, I always want to stress, for those who are starting this and may not have it yet, always begin with your why. Why are we here in the first place? Why are we here gathering in this chair, having to come up with something? Because if you do, you can start understanding and identifying what are the challenges that you are going to tackle, and be methodical about the challenge that you have. And you can use a lot of different sources of data to use. If you're already a former RaaWee member, you have that information there. But for us, since we were new, we relied heavily on our decision ed and then student information system we have, which is eSchool. Those are the two that we utilized. And it's very important that when you identify your challenges, right, that you don't just make anecdotal decisions. I think this, I think that, because a lot of times when whatever we think, when we look at the data doesn't support what we think is the problem is. And we had to come up with those for our group as well. And obviously, you have to create a realistic goal. Like for our district, I'll give you, our district, we have created a goal that is, we felt is a difficult goal, but then it's also an attainable goal with a district our size, given the challenges that we've had in the past. So we have to have a SMART goal. Okay? We can't, we hear SMART goal all the time. But it's always good that whatever we begin our process, we always want to have what we have at the end in mind. There's always, I want to just leave that to everybody who's starting this, is always know where you want to go before you start where you're going. I have a plan. So now, Now you created this, you figure out what the why is, why we're here, what are the challenges that we have. Now let's go ahead and talk about when you're in that planning, what do we do? How do we implement this plan, right? Like I said, initially, you have to make sure that you have a clearly defined roles and responsibilities. You develop a clear framework. And one of the big things that is very, very important, especially those who are listening that are on a bigger scale like us, is how we roll this thing out. How do we do the rollout process? We have great ideas, but sometimes if you are not careful with how you roll out your processes and your plan, that could potentially derail the great ideas that you guys have. But then again, going back to is when you have a meeting, right? That's why I always want to include here. I wanted to just keep in mind that when you come up with your plan, it has to be well thought out. You have to be able to consider all the potential challenges that you guys have, and that's why it's so important to have a breadth of stakeholders in there because they have different points of view, and you have to have a very clear approach on how you go about things because it could get the word is muddied up in communication. What we're telling somebody and what we think we said was not what they took, and they run with it. And in a campus like a district like ours with 83 campuses, if you make one crucial mistake, it's almost you can make it in 30 minutes and it'll take you 2 weeks to fix what you just created with the mistake that you created. So we have to be very careful and slow in the rollout process that we have. And of course, you can never do any of these things without having any kind of adaptability to the feedback that your stakeholders and the campuses, the end takers of this initiative to you, and not be able to make the changes and be adaptable to the change. And obviously, a positive reinforcement and celebrating milestones and celebrating improvements is key. And I will get into that in a bit. So, like I mentioned a while ago, when we roll it out, right? The rollout itself of whatever plan that you create is just as important as the plan in itself. Okay, so there's always that adage, I don't know who's in the military, but slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If you rush it, you end up having 3, 4 steps back, and there's a lot of different emotional baggage that comes with that when there are already constituents of yours that are not feeling the same group, feeling the same way as you with the initiative you have. So you have to be very phased in your approach. You have to communicate clearly, have a clear communication, written communication of what the specific steps are, and be transparent with them. Own mistakes if there were mistakes, and say we're working on it. We didn't see this. Thank you for your input, and try to fix those. And of course, one of the big things, a crucial part of this is going to be we are giving our constituents this big initiative, the processes that we have. If they don't understand who's supporting them, who's going to train them. We have experienced that firsthand with our first foray into this RaaWee experience. So that's the rollout is just as important as anything else. So now, once you've done all of those, right? You've got a plan. You've been very clear about what you do, what they're supposed to do. Like what Ms. Wood said a while ago, what gets monitored is what gets done. And so this is where RaaWee and technology, I feel, is coming into play. Because now if you know the right things to do, you could figure out what you're gonna monitor, how you're gonna monitor it, how to drill down to what you're monitoring, and how to disseminate that information what you're monitoring to the campuses. And really at the end, like what I explained, is how do we support the campuses on what we're trying to monitor them on? It will not be fair, and that's how you would lose buy-in if you are going to tell a campus to say, hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, but nobody ever is going to give them feedback. And more importantly, nobody's ever there to help them give them support when you give them the feedback. So these pillars are very important. to what we do once we create that culture of planning, culture of support, is you also have to give them accountability. Okay. So with that, and I'm going to give you an example of what we do here in our district, of how we are letting our campuses know, hey, these are the things that we're monitoring, and this is how we're monitoring it. And we're giving it to them on a weekly basis. We give them, to be fair, we did not want to say, hey, today this is your ADA, but we're comparing to your last year's final ADA, because we know that that shifts. So what we're working on is it's a semi-dynamic information, because we are literally comparing apples to apples with them. Is if your current ADA from week 1 all the way to week 20 is this, last year from week 1 to week 20 is also this. Did you grow? Did you not grow? If you grew, how much? Then later, I'm going to go tie that into what do you do when those things, when we have those information and they're growing, they're doing what they need to do, what we're expecting, we're hoping them to do. And then at the same time, we also know that we also have to have a goal with them. What is your goal and contribution to the cost, so to speak, right? For each campus. We have to go that granular with them. You know, it's not just one big district, and then we're just telling you, you have to have, what is your contribution as a campus to the cost? And so, and that being said, then you start talking about RaaWee. That's where I said a while ago that information and technology comes into play, because with RaaWee, we now have the interventions given to them. And if we just gave it to them without anything whatsoever, human nature tells us, have taught us that if you don't ask for it, if you don't monitor it, it goes by the wayside for the most part, for the majority of my experience in just in life. So what we do is every week we give them a summary of all the outstanding phone calls that are still pending for them, all the attendance contracts that are still pending for them, and we break it down. We're very transparent to them. And also with that, what we're doing is we are taking into account the days. Of course, it's not fair that I'm going to call one campus that may have like 15 or 20 phone calls and say, hey, how come you have 20 outstanding phone calls? Where that phone call was given only for today, was provided today. So you have to have a built-in buffer for them to understand that you as the district, as the group that is actually also understand their plight. Because a lot of times that's where the disconnect is. Many people think that we don't understand their plight in a campus. And the same thing with attendance contract. We give them information on attendance contracts. And as I said, I say this all the time, is the more detailed, the more we get granular on the information that we're looking for, the more specific it is that we are finding out, the more we can hold folks accountable, and also the more that we can identify problems that could lead to tier 3 interventions. Because it's hard to do tier 3 interventions if you don't have the proper data to support what who is there to be identified in the first place. And in our district, one of the last support that we give our campuses is, once you've done everything you can on your campus about your interventions, your RaaWee phone calls, the parties and all that good stuff, the positive reinforcement, what happens when you hit the proverbial brick wall? We have a system in our district of a home visit request process for our staff members that we have in the district, whose sole purpose and job description is to go visit and find students who are not going to school and prevent dropouts. So we have that privilege and luxury in our district that we have that staff for those. But there's a home visit request process that we have, and I will not have time to discuss that here in this meeting, but if you need clarification on that, feel free to reach out to me. I will leave my information later. Okay? So now, we know that we can set up everything else that we have as a plan, right? But we also know that we are dealing with humans and its behaviors, and it's fluid situation all the time. There are certain things that we don't anticipate, certain things that we cannot quantify. And that's why I always say, always, always, always consider the intangibles in your campus. You know, when you, what we discussed earlier on, and I've heard it, is that create an environment in your campus that students want to go to school at. If students are having fun in your campus and they're learning, most likely they want to stay in school as opposed to just hanging out at, I don't know what you got, you know, different places that are not in school. Okay, give them a reason why they should be in school. Uh, you know, intangibly. Okay, treat, you know, do a lot of the good things and respect and all that other things that comes into play. Now, as proactive measures for this and for a lot of the things that we're trying to work on is a campus based is immediate phone blasts and phone calls, utilizing technology for immediate phone blasts for students who are absent in their first period might be one option. If you're absent in your first period before the ADA time or any other time, blast it out to the parents. We miss your kid today. It takes 3 minutes in our system to identify who they are, send it out. Will they come? I don't know, but we did try. Okay. Uh, make ADA time if you're here in Texas, not too early. That way, it gives you a buffer zone to gather as many kids back to school. Uh, email parents and phone calls to parents right before a start of school from a long weekend. You know, anytime we have a long break, we did find out that the numbers are atrocious, right? When you have long weekends, there's a lot of kids that say, I'll see you on, you know, I'll take a 4-day weekend when we give them a 3-day weekend. So you know, just utilize technology to have proactive measures for us, right? And like I mentioned a while ago, positive enforcement goes a long ways. Uh, in our district, we have the luxury to have a financial incentivization that we have. We give out monthly rewards to campuses, and we create competition amongst campuses. And I will get into, because now we're talking about financial rewards, notoriety, and they get really competitive. And so we have to be very strategic and clear about what we're basing these rewards on. And then really is you really should meet the students and the parents where they are, right? It be it if you're making a phone call and they can't get call, email, you know, like home visits, like some of you are expressed, and then just utilize every tool that we have and be also compassionate with our parents. Because like I said, sometimes we have students in our district that, trust me, being in school that day is the last thing in their mind. You know, there's a lot of things in their lives that goes on that you have to be compassionate with. Okay. So the district level intervention that we were referring to a while ago, how do we do it? When we do it, we tier our campuses based on the set criterion. This is an example of what we do is we take it 3 components, the current ADA that they have, and then we have the goal based on their goal that they've set. Are they meeting that goal? They get a percentage for that. They have their ADA growth. They get a percentage of that. And then what are they doing in the campus utilizing RaaWee? And that's where RaaWee comes in, is the intervention piece is we give them a point system for that also. And then we tier everybody, all 83 campuses. And then we go ahead and, you know, do it. So based on the tier, we give them the support that they need. And when you are on the tier 3 campuses that we have, then we go ahead and notify the principal. We offer support. We have meetings with them. And ultimately, what we end up doing, and with the support of our assistant superintendent and executive director of our department, is we create an action plan for each campus that we visit. And I monitor them and I meet with them weekly to give them support. So those are the things that we have. Now, this is it feels like on the support punitive side, right? But then at the same time, you also need to also understand that you also have to celebrate the successes. And that's where we are at also. We also want to have a celebrate success with everybody else. So that's why we do our monthly drawing on what we have an ILT meeting every month. So all the principals come in and they gather. And so we give them rewards there. If, you know, whoever's interested, on how we go about that, let us know, reach out to us. We'd be glad to share it with you guys, what we do. So none of this really, like I referred a while ago, it's going to be very difficult to get data quickly and accurately, and then also disseminate that data to your constituent, your campuses, if you don't utilize any of the other resources that you have, right? For ours, develop relationships with third-party social services like Triad. What our district did was that we set up a meeting with the assistant district attorney over truancy here in Harris County, and we met with a person and her team and asked, what is it that we can do on our end so you can help us get to where we need to go, which is the goal is never to file truancy on anybody, but we will go there if we have to, because we just feel that we owe it to the kid and the family that we've done everything we can to get your kid back in school, okay? And again, RaaWee is a tool. If you are already using RaaWee, great. But just like any other tool, like I gave an example the last time, is that a hammer is a tool. I could use a hammer to build a house, or I can use a hammer to make us a paperweight. What I do with the tools I have, how effective my tool will be is just as good as what I use it for.
Okay? Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
We have a couple questions. First off, what is Triad?
Triad. Okay, so if you're here in Harris, Triad is a service in Harris County that what they do is they offer support to parents of students that are minors, minors that are struggling to go to school. So they have like different services like mental health. They reach out to these parents and say, hey, we are from the Harris County under the umbrella. I think they're under the mental health umbrella. And then of course with the truancy department of Harris County, and they offer support that way. They have a multitude of services that they offer to parents. Schooling, for lack of a better word, how to raise your kid. They'll teach you that also if you're struggling with that. How to make your kid be more compliant to you. They have those classes for those. So Triad is that for us. Now, if you're here in Harris County, that is.
Excellent, excellent. So basically parental training classes.
Parental training classes. And what Triad is a gateway to the truancy process.
Correct. And then the second question is, I believe by Dr. Shavis Thomas, should elementary schools follow the same strategies as middle schools and high schools?
In terms of RaaWee or just the process itself?
I think she's talking about the process.
Yeah, so we made the district decision on our end that everybody will follow the process, even though we know that we don't file truancy on certain group, right? Or the dropouts don't apply. Not that we don't file truancy, but the dropouts don't apply. But an absence, every child is not in class, is not learning. So that was the mindset and the concept that we took, is that we need to go through as everybody else, because a first grader, we owe it to that kid and that parent to treat that absence the exact same way how we would treat a ninth grader.
Thank you very much. I think that's the only two questions we have so far. If there's another one, I'll let you know.
Cool, thank you. So now, once you have your district attendance and accountability, is when you follow up with a campus from the district level, is we give them, again, RaaWee's utilization of this is, who are the students that they have given attendance contracts to? Who have they made a phone call to? What are the results of these? And all of these are actually in RaaWee already. These information is already on RaaWee if you just know where to find. Okay, and so we ask questions, right? If you get this far, then what? You always want to ask the question of then what? You've gotten here, then what? And as you find, eventually you're going to know that there's about 5 questions, perhaps 5 levels, and you're going to get to the detail of exactly what you need. So this is just an example of it that we have. And also, Also, I would be remiss to say that when we go to the campuses and I give them their information, and when I communicate with them, and when you guys, please, please, please don't ever skip the part of their numbers. You know, there's always good in the numbers they've got. And that's what I always want to show them and say, hey, look where you were at before because of X, Y, and Z. This is what you have done. This is where you're at now. A lot of times they feel that their work is validated, and it's that they're not just doing this for the sake of doing it. And there's actual results of what they're working on. So that is the mindset that we have when we took this journey when we tackled our attendance absenteeism, chronic absenteeism here in Aldine ISD. And I said a while ago, you have to celebrate your success, right? As I mentioned that in here earlier, these are just some of the examples. The one on the top left, the one on the blue is our assistant superintendent of student support, student services, student support, Ms. Diaca Melendez. And these are some of the winners that we have for our initiatives every month. And so we do have it to where just on any good day, we have a traveling trophy for different staff who are doing what they're supposed to do. Again, the $250, you see it in the background, it says 750. On a given month, a campus could potentially, if you do a clean sweep of how we worked out the competition, a campus could potentially make 750, walk out of the meeting with $750 that they can spend towards celebrating their kiddos in their campus. So a lot of the positive things that we do, we have a system to support them, to monitor them, but at the same time, we also give them the opportunity to also celebrate the successes that they have. And one of the things what we did on our last meeting with our campuses was that we asked them, what are the things that are successful that's making your numbers jump higher? And these are some of the examples that they gave us. Campus bucks incentive system, kind of like the positive reinforcement money that Ms. Allison was sharing a while ago. Daily recognition. Sometimes our students are so used to focusing on the lower ones that we're forgetting that bubble, what we call the bubble kids, the 50 to 70 group kiddos who are doing what they're supposed to do, yeah, halfway, but we could really move up and we can reach our goal. So we recognize those by making phone calls, again, utilizing technology, blast out emails to the parents to notify them, hey, we are aware, we see that your kiddo is doing what they need to do. The 85 to 90%, 100%ers is what really we do daily recognition on, not the 50 to 70. We identify the 50 to 70, so that way we can create attendance buddies with them. That's what one of the campuses shared with us. Whatever I'm sharing with you guys right now, these 6 bullets that I have here are all coming from campuses that they are currently, as we speak, are doing in their campus and gaining some traction on. And in here, these are the campus created initiatives that I could share with you guys. I compiled everything that they shared with me, and I've compiled here. If you want to, it's a gamut of from holding people accountable to giving kids pizza to having an attendance party, things of that nature that is there. But positive reinforcement goes a long way, along with monitoring and having clear systems in our district, at least. So with that being said, I just want to say, and I was Ms. Woods, I was telling Ms. Wilson this a while when we first met. It's like, we're not doing anything special here, Ms. Wilson. Like I said, there's no magic wand to make your attendance just snap and be good. There's no gimmicks that you can do. Yeah, there might be gimmicks, but they'll be short-lived, right? But being consistent and utilizing data that is available to you, available to everyone else that you can disseminate is important. And always celebrate every little increment of success. If you're just succeeding every day, kind of like my assistant soup would always refer to as like losing weight, right? I could lose 0.2 pounds today, but if I'm consistently losing 0.2 pounds in 5 days, that is a pound a week. You know, so as if the longer it is, as long as we're getting to the right direction, we're good, and that's where we are. And if you are struggling in your pursuit right now, stay the course, have a plan. And of course, the bigger picture of this is that consistency in our attendance is fostering a positive impact on educational experience of a kid. And obviously, as I would say, is that the more kiddos you have in campus, the more opportunity that you are giving them to actually have a better future in the end. It's hard to save a kid who doesn't go to school. So that's what we have for Aldine. Of course, we are a work in progress. And if you have any comments that you feel can give us more feedback on how we can do it better, please let us know. We're always open. My executive director, Mr. Lindeman, and Ms. Diaco Melendez, our assistant superintendent, we're always open to all feedback from everybody else. So thank you.
Wonderful. So yeah, let's get the questions in. Anybody who has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat.
A lot of thank yous, Paul.
Yes, a lot of thank yous. Great job. Paul, would you mind putting your contact information in the chat?
Sure. Wait a minute, hold on. I just put it in there.
Perfect. Thank you. We do have one question. Do you have court referrals? Any court referrals?
Yes. So the answer is yes, we have. However, what we're doing is we are making sure that we are dotting our I's and crossing our T's when we do the court referrals, because it's a lot, right? And we also want to do our student body justice by saying that we have done everything we can on our end before we have to go through here. So yes, so we do have it, and we have a process for it. A lot of it is we have systematized a lot of the things that we do. That way it's fast, it's quick, and it's recorded and it's documented. Yes.
So Reggie, I'll make sure you get his contact information. It's a little higher up in the chat there, but I'll make sure that everybody gets Paul's contact information. Any other questions? Okay, and those of you who are our RaaWee partners, will be sharing a new contact list so you can engage with each other easily. But anybody who's at this presentation will make sure that Paul's information is available. Any other questions?
I'm putting it in on the last slide.
I reposted it for you, Paul. I just reposted it for you.
And what I'll do is I'll put a slide on the back here with your contact information too, and we'll repost the presentation. So last call for questions. While we wait for that, I'll let you know that for those of you who are new to our summits, we do provide the videos and the slides in a PDF to anybody who wants them.
Real quickly, Janie, just so you know, Paul, when you were replying, you were only replying to host and panelists, not everybody. So if you want to put some added information there, you can click to everyone, and everyone can see the added information.
There you go. That's right. Thank you so much.
But everybody can see it now. That's great. Okay. So the videos, the PDFs, anybody who any templates and examples they referred to, there were quite a few in Allison's. Those are available. The best place to get those is to go to our Everyday Matters Summit newsletter. And the next newsletter will feature the videos, and we'll make sure that any requests for templates are merged into there, the PowerPoints. And so you can find them all in one place. And so
real quickly, Janie, we have just a couple questions.
Okay, great.
Do we have time for a couple questions, Janie?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Michelle Jones asked, Paul, do you have contracts for all grade levels?
Yes. The answer is yes. We send out the contracts, the attendance contracts to all grade levels. Yes. And the parents have to sign it. And then the expectation is that our APs will monitor it, and they put them in a monitoring contract. And that's part of what I monitor. The monitors is I make sure that they're doing the contracts and monitoring the contracts.
Paul, are you guys using the e-sign?
Yes, we're doing e-sign. We're doing definitely e-sign. We have, depending on the demographics on the campus, we've had different campuses that are struggling with the e-sign because it's not on their end, it's the parents. And, you know, there's a learning curve for the parents too. So what we have given them was resort to good old verbal over the phone, and then document, and then scan individually. So we're making it, we are basically making sure that we cover all the bases when it comes to the barriers that the parents have.
Excellent. And we had another, Sherry Sadler has her hand raised. Sherry, if you want to comment on the chat of what you're asking, that'd be great. But also Michelle Jones asked, are the contracts all different between elementary and secondary?
When it comes to the messaging of the contract, no. But in terms of the cadence of when they're getting it, there's a slight variation. What we worked on was the length of when they will get the contract. So, like for example, if it's a secondary, the first, after the 4 weeks to get the warning letters, and any absence after that, you're fair game. Whereas elementary school, there's a different cadence of when they're going to get it. So we basically piecemealed it, but the contract is exactly the same thing. Both are available in English and Spanish also.